Thank you very much, Mr. Bhargav, Mr. Mrityunjay Singh, Mr. Ajay, and all other friends who asked me to be here this afternoon with you. I'm grateful to Y4D, the International Institute of Technology, and all of you who are present here. Firstly, I was only wondering how many of you can really hear me. It must be a wonder of acoustics in case the people sitting so distant can really hear me. आप लोगों को आवाज आ रही है वहां पे? अच्छा. Well, friends, it is indeed a very great opportunity for me to be in this great historic city of the patriots, the city of Shivaji. I lived in these cities. I lived in this city 64 years back. And I lived in the cantonment where my father was posted as an army officer. And I carry very, very sweet memories of the people and my childhood friends, most of whom I have lost. I do not know where they are. But maybe they must have also forgotten me by this time. Friends, thereafter I had occasion to come to Pune many times. And Pune has changed considerably. But so has India. In last over 6 decades after our independence, we have changed a lot. All change is progress. But all progress is not change. Whenever you progress, you change from the state of one state of being to another state of being. But your another state of being can be a progress, it can be a retardation. One thing is sure, that you are not stagnant. And so it becomes necessary in the lives of nations as much as of individuals that they stop working for a while. They start pondering over the basics. Where we are, where we want to be, whether the changes are what are in consonance with our aspirations, whether we are changing the way we are and we should, or are we changing in a way that we may regret. When you are in the thick of things and whatever you are doing, you think that that is the best thing that you could do. And this is something which is useful and good for you. It's only the advantage of hindsight which tells you that it was not so. When Pandit Nehru took the Kashmir question to the United Nations, he thought it was best for India. Or when he agreed on Tibet, or when he declined the UN membership in 1953 and said, no, China deserves it more and we would support China's case, when there was total opposition in the world against China. He thought that what he was doing was the best. It is not always so. When you are living in contemporary, it is at times difficult to see and judge how the history will judge you. There is another problem. What could be the objective and scientific criteria to judge? As I said, we have been changing after independence. Now nearing almost 7 decades, last 68 years that we've been changing. What could be criteria by which we could say that the nation has moved in the direction which is a positive, which is aspirational for us, which is good for us and it is good for our coming generations? So let me try to put a very small criteria. What is the criteria of how we are perceived by others? How the world looks at us today and how did it look at us earlier? This is what is this thing of what we call as an authentic feedback. Churchill, before independence, had said, I feel sick when the Secretary of State talks about India. Where is India? India is like an equator. You can see it on the map, but it does not exist in reality. Today, the Prime Minister Cameron's position is entirely contrary. He said India is the most buoyant and vibrant nation. He said soon there will be an Indian living in this 10 Downing Street. This is what he said in a recent talk. Let us look at it. John Foster Dulles, who was the Secretary of State in Eisenhower's time, was extremely condemnatory of India. He said that Indians are immoral, non-alignment is immoral. I can never trust Indians. It's a fake democracy. And so did Nixon, who said that India is the most untrustworthy country and they are the most slippery people. He called our then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi a witch, a old witch. That was the time when the conflict on Bangladesh was in the offing. We have passed from there to a time when the George Bush and Obama feel that India is the most vibrant modern democracy and a force for stability and peace. George Bush invited India to be members of the G20 and accepted it as to the nuclear club despite the fact that we were not or we refused to sign the non-proliferation treaty. India was made an exception. Today, the entire West, the entire world looks at India with great hope. But I'll tell you another interesting thing. In 1953, the chief of intelligence of Pakistan was Qurban Ali. Qurban Ali wrote a doctrine which is known as Qurban Ali Doctrine. He was an IP officer who had the senior most rank in the intelligence bureau under the Britishers. On partition, he went to Pakistan. Later became its intelligence chief and later the governor of Balochistan and then Punjab. In 1953, he said that India is an artificial creation which came together only against their common struggle against the British. Its balkanization is inevitable. And whenever that balkanization takes place, we will be the biggest stakeholders in that balkanized India. I don't want to say certain other things that he added after that why they will be the biggest stakeholders. But they felt that the people who probably will side with them in that balkanized India will constitute the biggest segment, or at least a very major segment. Today, India is one. Today, India is more united than ever. Pakistan has been divided in two, and probably still is not at the end of it. So India has proved many are wrong. If you look at it very dispassionately, if you look at it very objectively, you have done quite well. Today, as it is in 2016, India is perceived as a major emerging power. It is the fastest growing major economy. Its scientific power, its technological power, even its military capabilities are something that the world sees with awe and respect. But that is not important. What is important is that when China rises, the question is, will China's rise be peaceful? When India is estimated to rise well and India rises, the question is, will India be able to make it? Or will India will miss the bus again? Nobody doubts that if India rises, it will be beneficial for the humanity, it will be beneficial for the world, it will bring peace and stability, it will strengthen the forces of liberty and democracy. And that is what is the peculiarity of India, that our rise is welcomed by all, from the African countries to the Western countries, to our Eastern neighbors, to probably most of our Western neighbors, maybe a few exceptions here and there. What is the second criteria? It is the macro aggregates that affect the common people. I will tell you, not many people probably, we haven't got a good sense of history, unlike the Chinese, who have got a great sense of history. In 1943, in United India, when the wheat-growing Punjab, that known as Punjab at that time, which constituted the entire later made West Pakistan, and the rice-growing East Pakistan were also part of India. And its combined population was 38 crores. There was a famine in Bengal. I wish that some of you who are Google friendly must go and read some of the articles about that famine. Can you imagine how many people died in that famine? As per the official figures by the British, 40 lakh people died because of starvation. It was not 40,000. The earlier estimate, they said 20 lakh, then they revised it to 30 lakh, then 35 lakh, and then the last commission, which was this thing, they put it as high as 40 lakh. And many of them might not have been counted, but there were computers at that time. Today, India is 125 crore. The wheat-growing Punjab has become Pakistan. The rice-growing East has become Bangladesh. India is able to not only feed 125 crore people, it is able to export and is surplus with the food grains. And if a Food Corporation of India was little more effective, probably thousands and thousands of tons of food grain will not go waste. India has, with the same land, such huge population, India is still surplus. And the entire Middle East and many countries are thinking, and the dream is, whether India could become the granary and would be able to provide the food security to the large segment of the world. So this is no mean achievement. There can be many other things. I don't want to go in statistics that our literacy rate from 12% of 36 crore has become 75% of 125 crore. Or when only 1,500 villages were electrified in 1947. Today we have got 6 lakh villages electrified, and Prime Minister Modi's promise that by May 1st, 2018, every village in this country will have the electricity. Friends, you never build a great wall. Nobody can build a great wall. You only put a brick correctly. You only put one brick at a time and do that job well. Nation building is not a process that takes place overnight. It is also an exothermic reaction. It generates a lot of heat. So there are temperatures. They look unsettling. It appears that probably things are not under control and we might not be able to keep the country together. But think of it. A country of India's diversity, a large number of languages and dialects, all the religions of the world, all the ethnicities, different linguistic and ethnic differences. Despite that, it has been able to keep itself secure. That is the third great achievement. That a country with an area of 3.2 million square kilometers, 15,000 kilometers of the land border, 70% of which is with the nations with which we don't have very friendly relations, and both are nuclear. Both do not have very strong democracies. But we are able to cope up with those threats. We have got a huge coastline of 7,500 kilometers. We have got a lot of internal threats. We have got huge borders to look after. The borders which are as high and in the most inhabitable areas, there are snow-clad mountains and there are the deserts of Thar deserts of Rajasthan. There are runs of Kutch. Day in and day out, our people are guarding this border and this country. When the whole world is witnessing so much of terrorism, and we are the focal point, we have suffered a lot on account of that. But still, if you look at it, that while the attempts made are many and large number of them, most of them, at least in the last 2 years, have been foiled. They have not succeeded. The attempts being made is something which depends upon the intention and capabilities of our adversaries. But it lies within our capacity to create a sense of deterrence amongst our adversaries, as also provide a sense of security to our people. Let me, almost in the end of, in June 2014, 46 of our nurses were taken as hostages. Were trapped. When the ISIS took control of Tikrit, the war was going on. The Iraqi fighters were bombing that area, and 46 of our nurses were under them. The ISIS, whose atrocities, disrespect for women, and the cruel ways have become legendary. It was a great challenge. And every Indian who thought, what would the plight of these of our sisters who are in distress? The Prime Minister Modi felt that we should do everything and stake everything. After all, these are the people who have given their sweat and toil. Do you know that of the 7 million people, 70 lakh people who work in Middle East, they work in most difficult conditions. They remit $34 billion per year, which is almost our entire budget of defense. They are no mean contributors. Their contribution for this nation is great. We cannot forget them at their time of distress. And that's why when Prime Minister Modi visits these countries, the first thing that he makes it a point is that he goes to the labor areas where people hardly spend about 2% to 3% of their earnings on themselves or on their food. They remit everything to their homes and families here, which helps in the process of nation building. About $74 billion come to this country by these remittances. So he felt that everything should be done, whatever the cost and whatever the risk. And India is the only country which was able to rescue its girls, its nurses from Tikrit. Or if Taliban had kept almost about 28 days after the new Prime Minister took over and kept Dr. Prem Kumar Alexis, a Jesuit priest from Tamil Nadu, and took him as a hostage. After 8 months, he was brought alive, and he came back to India and joined his family. This is what we are trying to transform the nation. We will not be helpless to what happens to us. In security, it matters what happens to you. But what matters more is how you respond to it. And how you respond to it depends upon your determination and intentions and your capabilities. The country is up in its march to build its capabilities. Our farmers, our soldiers, our workers, our common man in the street, our school teachers, our professors, education institutions, they are all contributing to this task of nation building. Sometimes they are aware, most of the time they are not, the great contribution that they have done. This country today would not be where it is, but for the contribution of each one of you. And our biggest strength is our coming force, our youth force, the youth bulge of this country. When the entire world is aging, India is young and vibrant. It is you who will change the face of this country. If you have got the faith in yourself, the confidence in yourself, and a commitment to do what you think your country expects from you. It is important for us to prepare the future of our youth. But it is equally important that we prepare the youth for their future. And here that is what is happening. You are preparing yourself for the future. You have to stand on your own, and you have got to build your own capabilities. Well, friends, all that I told you actually is not a task of nation building. It is a state building. राज्य शक्ति और राष्ट्र शक्ति में अंतर होता है थोड़ा सा. ये सारी चीजें राष्ट्र शक्ति के भी भाग हैं. They are all part of the nation building process. But nation is much more than a state. The state must have a piece of land, a territory, a flag, a constitution, but a nation can stay without that also. Jews constituted a nation for 2,000 years. Israel was created only in 1948. Only you and I who are alive are the subjects of the state till we are alive. But we will remain the members of this nation till the history of this country stays. This country's nationhood is incomplete without the memories of Shivaji and Maharana Pratap. They are the heroes of our nation. So when we make and when we think of nation building, there is many other things that go in that. Do you have a pride in everything that belongs to you? Is your identity coterminous with the identity of your nation, the civilization, the culture for which you are an inheritor? In 1947, Indian state became independent. It became a new Republic State of India. But the nation which had stayed for thousands of years still had to emancipate itself. And this will be the biggest responsibility on the shoulders of the coming generation, where they can make every Indian walking in the Oxford Street feel proud of his identity. I find that a tremendous change in that. At least in the recent months or years that you might have gone, anywhere you go, you find that an average Indian is looked with much greater degree of respect. Whether we can, we call a term as a comprehensive national power. Now, comprehensive national power is how powerful a country is determined on the basis of various ingredients. Its military power, its economic power, its technological power, its natural resources, its human capital, all these things. But there is one component which is the most important in that. That is the national will. Rashtra ka manobal. And the national will comes with the identity of the people identifying themselves with their nationhood. The biggest challenge before us would be to create that national will. You can have everything, but you may lack the national will. When Soviet Union disintegrated, it got balkanized. It was one of the most powerful power of the world. It also had one of the biggest armies. It had all the withdrawal which goes to make a very powerful state. Its state of governance and its control over people was complete. But the national will had started crumbling. Wars are fought not to kill people. Wars are fought to crumble the national will of the enemy country so that we can have peace at your terms. So it is important that we generate a national will. When some people who have made no sacrifices for the country come on the streets or come on at these things and give the slogans, talking about fragmentation of India, Bharat tere tukde honge, inshallah, inshallah. It is not what they said is important. It is how the rest of the society responds to that is important. When the rest of the society is a mute spectator to that and considers it as an event, just as a news media item, it is not something that shakes them up. It means that the national will is not up to the point where it has got to be. Where you talk about the negatives, but you have got no pride in the positives. When everything that your ancestors have done, you are ashamed of. When your religion, your culture, your civilization, your practices, your families, your village, everything you are very apologetic about it, it means that the national will has yet to emerge. Well, friends, one of the biggest things for you would be to have the confidence in yourself. You know, as Swami Vivekananda used to say, पुराना धर्म कहता है नास्तिक वो है जो ईश्वर में विश्वास नहीं रखता. नया धर्म कहता है नास्तिक वो है जो स्वयं में विश्वास नहीं रखता. India is great because you are its member. Each one of you, if you feel that, well, this team will win because I am playing for it. And if I play for it, I will make it to be a winning team. With 125 crore people, with a fire in their hearts, with a fire in their belly, if they decide to make it a great country, if they have the pride in their values, in their nation, in their civilization, in their history, there's nothing that can stop it. Friends, nothing is stronger than an idea whose time has come. I'm an old man now, and I've seen the shaping of this country in the post-independence era for many long years. I tell you and take my word for that, India's time has come. The world has realized it. But some of our own countrymen refuse to recognize it. Not only they refuse to recognize it, they will create all negativism about itself. They will prevent positive thinking. If you have faith and trust in yourself, in your destiny, if you have got a pride in your past and a hope for the future, you know what change you can make, what you can make of this nation, which is really going to be one of the most acceptable growing power, which is going to play a much greater global role in times to come. And this is not what I'm telling. This is what, if you read the writings of most of the strategic and the security experts of the world, they are telling. Stephen Cohen, I don't know whether you've heard his name, he's one of the world's foremost strategic this thing. Thomas Reed, so many of them, in their assessments about the coming world, they are telling that 2025 onwards, India will be one of the strongest power. We have got a lot of advantages. We still will be able to sustain this economic rise for a long time. We have got a technological capabilities. And the main two drivers of the next 50 years at least would be the technology and the economy. And the third will be the demography. All three are in our favor. We have got the right demography of the youth. We have got the technological capability and the capability to grow it further. We need further resources for more of research and development. And we have got an economic price and a muscle and an economic sense and a global acceptability. Nearly we are coming to an age where all sanctions against India are going. And I must say we must give compliments to the Prime Minister Modi for this. Today you can get and import any type of a technology and wait for another 2 months where we will be. Probably shortly we will be having much greater accessibility. All international restrictions which were not, where India could not make use of the globally available technology in the denied areas, probably will be available to us. But will we be able to make use of it? Are we ready for the change? And I'm sure that I may not be ready for that change, but all of you are ready for that change. You are the one who will make the change. You are not only instruments of change, you are change yourself. Each one of you who changes, he changes India. What can you do then to bring about that change? You can generate that positive energy in the nation. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, whosoever you are, in your house, in your village, in your workplace, in your school, in your college. Imbibe yourself and infuse yourself with the positive thoughts and energy that we will change and change it for good. I am the one who will change it. When each one of you start thinking like that, feeling like that, believing in like that, India will change. And it is no small achievement. What did Swami Vivekananda do? He did not raise an army. He was not any great political leader. He was able to create the spark. And wherever he got an opportunity, he ignited that spark and far and wide. He tried to free this country from the slavish mentality. And what is the slavish psyche? There's an excellent book about the psyche of the slave. Slaves are not the one who are the weakest. Slaves have generally been more strong and powerful than the people who had enslaved them. That's why they could work for them. Whether they had to row the boats from, like Santa Maria, from Spain's coast to the New Found World, or to work in the fields and others. They were stronger. They were better. But they always thought that they were inferior. They were always apologetic about what belonged to them. And wherever they have realized, whenever that spark has come, they have no more remained as slaves. And the slaves have established the dynasties. They became the rulers. Even in India, we had a slave dynasty. In Qutbuddin Ahmad's time, they thought that, well, a slave thought that, well, what is there? I'm Altamash, I'm a better swordsman, I'm a better horse rider. If he can do it, I can do it better. We have got to get, that's what I say, India's nationhood has yet to be sparked. It was good that we have started building the process of state building, whereas the nation building was being done more in our houses, in our informal institutions and others. But that spark and fire was in everybody's heart. Every Indian feels very strongly. I get hundreds of letters. What can they do for the country? From young students to the old retired people, that, well, they have got the time. What is there that they can do? Each one of you can do. Spread that spark. Master the technology. Let me tell you one thing, and I think I'll conclude with that. In different stages of history, the power belonged to different type of people. There's a time when the person who controlled the biggest clan was powerful. Then came the time when the people who controlled largest land became powerful. Then came the time when the people who controlled the largest armies became powerful. Then the people who had a great maritime strength in the navies, they became powerful. Then the people who controlled the production became powerful. Then the people who had the technology, that became the powerful. In the coming times, The people who will control the minds and hearts of the people will be the most powerful. If you can make me think, if you can make me think what is in your best interest, you wield power over me. You don't have to colonize it. If you can make your product sell here and deprive me of having my own product, you exercise control over my mind. If you can make me feel that this Western product or this Western value or this Western dress is something which is best for me, well, I'm enslaved to that extent. The day you start thinking for yourself, liberate your mind from the shackles, take your own decisions. You do not serve anybody else's interest. And when your own interest is the interest of your nation, nothing can stop that nation. See the Japanese, I do not know whether a small story you have heard. Once in a ship, Jamshedji Tata was going from Japan to United States. Actually, before that, he went to UK and he said, well, I want to make steel. So he went to a British company and he said, I want to make steel. He says, if Indians can make steel, I will have it for the breakfast. He felt very hurt about it. Next journey, he was going in a ship from Japan to United States, again in search of somebody. But he was very depressed. Swami Vivekananda was also traveling in that ship. He met Swami Vivekananda and see a letter which Jamshedji Tata wrote to Vivekananda at that time. He said, you are the man who gave me the spark that you can do it. He said, but you first start also a major institute. That is how the Indian Institute of Sciences, Bangalore, came into this. And the offer, Jamshedji wrote to Vivekananda, can you become the first director and founding this thing of that institute? He says, I'm an ascetic, I'm an hermit. But you find somebody. And he created that empire and brought India onto the steel map. And today the Tata Steel has been able to buy all the automobile companies of the United Kingdom. This is what you are. You need a Swami Vivekananda to spark you, to tell you that yes, you can make it, you can do it. He did it. It is not Swamiji who made it. It is Jamshedji Tata who made it. But he needed someone to spark it. If he could spark the millions of people who are much enslaved and much more under depravity and conditions of this thing, probably even if you can do 10 people in a lifetime, if you can in your neighborhood, the people who are work, if every Indian could be raised to his potential, nobody can stop this great country, and I'm sure the youth will play its role. Thank you very much.
If anybody wants to ask a question, there's a lot of people.
Hello.
Abhay, Chetan, Pushkar. All right, so can you just go to somebody right next to you? Yeah, okay. Zahid?
Zahid Patka, Bharat. I want to ask, sir, why we don't conduct...
Mike.
Mike.
Just hold on.
Good evening.
Hello.
I want to ask, sir, why we don't conduct...
Keep the mic closer.
Why we don't conduct de-radicalization campaign and bring the misguided minorities into a mainstream throughout Bharat?
I don't know if I've understood your question rightly. You want to ask me is that what is India doing about de-radicalization? The question presumes that India's segment of our population is radicalized. Firstly, I differ with that. I don't think that any segment of India's population is really radicalized. There are few individuals who probably have fallen victim to some of the insidious propaganda which they get to the social net or to the internet and get affected by that. India's Islam has been always a very, very inclusive Islam, as is evident. Forget about what's in the post-independence period, but in the pre-independence period. See, Mughals banned slaughter of cow. There was no slaughtering of cow during Mughal period. It is only the Britishers after 1857 that there is a letter which you can read in this thing of Dharampalji, when they have said that you just make it like this, that may be one point that might create this thing. So I don't think that Indian Islam was ever intolerant. There is a tremendous amount of coexistence. It continues and it will continue. The question is that, yes, how do we protect some of our youth? Let us try to see what is influencing them. One is, of course, the medium is the social media, the internet and others. Probably a greater vigil, a greater this thing on the part of people here who could give their more profound ideas, the more sagacious ideas, and tell them that this is not real Islam. There is also a great responsibility, and which is being done, is to contact the Indian ulema and make them realize their responsibility. And as you might be aware, that whatever their mutual differences might be on the question of opposing terrorism, extremism, Islamism, whether it is Jamaatul Ulema Hind Deoband, whether it is the Sufi shrines, whether it is the Tabligh Jamaat, everyone is doing it. Jamaat Islami, I won't be able to, it will take a long time to say all of them, but everyone and each one of them is telling its people, there is no Jamaat in India. Forget about the Indian Mujahideen, or this thing, which actually was a creation of a hostile intelligence agency, and who had its bases and its people there. It is not a Jamaat with any mass following. It is just a group of the people that you can take or any intelligence agency can create. But it was not something which had the support of the Indian Muslims. Even to the extent that they wanted to control the SIMI, that the Student Islamic Movement of India, which was the front student body of the Jamaat-e-Islami. Jamaat-e-Islami expelled them and told them that Jamaat-e-Islami may have any views, but we will not tolerate anything which is anti-Indian. And then they created their own SIO, their Student Islamic Organization, which continues to be their student wing. So don't forget, let us see the things in the right perspective. There's a need also for us to send a message to every countryman that don't suspect and think that everyone who doesn't, who believes in Islam or who follows the Islam is a radical. It is not. It is not true. They are probably trying their best. You know, in a recent example, I think I may share it with you. There was some attempt by some people from the ISIS to build a network. A large number of people were picked up. We kept only 4 of them. We released all of them. We are calling them for counseling. And we are doing the counseling, they come along with their parents. At places we are telling the people in whose, near the madrasa or a Maulvi who is living in that area, please visit their homes, keep a watch on them and tell them. It had a salutary effect. I find that nearly about 96 of them, they have become the biggest champions. See the number of people who wanted to come back. It's a very small percentage of people who had gone, considering the population here. But thousands of people from Europe have gone. We had only about 36 persons who had gone. And a large number of them, a majority of them, were those who were in the Middle East and got this thing from there. It was not so much from India. And even those who went from India, some of them even tried to return from Turkey. So I don't think that we have got to be over-concerned. Overreaction may create a certain phenomenon which might be this thing. Please impress upon the family elders, the religious teachers, your Maulvis, the madrasas, the masjids. There are certain types of Islamic denominations which are trying to propagate an ideology which is alien to Indian ideology and can come very close to radicalism. And Salafi ideology, I was told, I understand, is bringing about a certain amount of a change in the Hanafi Islam of India. There is a need to counter it through scholarly discourse, through interaction with them. Probably they may be recipient of some funds and money from some sources by which some of the mosques and others have converted to Salafi this thing. The people who, the Markazul Dawa Irshad and Lashkar-e-Toiba, they all belong to Salafi Islam. We would not like the Salafi Islam to make inroads in India, because that is alien to India, that is alien to Indian psyche, it is alien to Indian tradition of Islam, it is alien to our ethos, and it is bad for our nation. Thank you. Well, I think, I know, well, to tell you very frankly, there is no work which is more difficult than 24 hours a day. And there is no work which is more difficult than 2,000 calories. That is the maximum that a human being in its prime of youth can put in. Because beyond that, as we say, nobody can torture me beyond a point of my tolerance. Because if I'm caught somewhere, I know how much of a torture my body can bear. Beyond that, I'm unconscious. So they won't torture there because they can't get anything from an unconscious body, from a body that cannot respond. So they have to keep it at a level where it remains conscious and it can respond. Then only I'm useful. If I'm caught, I or anybody else, if in a foreign country or something like that, then you have got to remain conscious. So you will never be tortured beyond that. As long as that assurance is there, why worry? Only train yourself to do that. If you are trained to take up that much of a torture, you are always intorturable. I don't think the NSA job is very difficult, particularly if we have got a government and a prime minister with a very clear vision. With a total sense of commitment, who gives you and trusts you that whatever you do will be in the national interest and will support you in everything that you do, it doesn't become difficult. It becomes difficult when it gets politicized. When you are trying to achieve two different objectives which are contrary to each other, then that balancing games become difficult. There is no such thing in the government of India or any of its organizations. All security agencies accept the leadership, accept and work together. There is complete coordination, as we had seen, even in, say, anything, whatever the people in the media may write and things like that. The type of a coordination that was seen during the Pathankot attack. There was army, which was the first to reach, with 9 of its columns with these para-commandos. There was Air Force, which was the second to reach, with their Air Force officer commanding in chief, with the Garud commandos from Delhi. There was the NSG, which was the third to reach. But for the first fire, in which some people who were having their food in their langar, that they could kill 6 of the watch and ward staff people, not any of the people who were on counter-terrorist duty. There is only one person who died. Whereas their plans were foiled. And not even one aircraft or one ammunition depot or one asset of our country or 10,000 people who are living there in the family quarters were taken as a hostage. There was no damage done. It is because they worked in complete unison. When people work in unison, when their objective is same, making a goal is never a problem. If all the 11 members of the team are seeing the same goal post, are seeing the same goal and accept that who is the captain, we will make a goal. So it's not a difficult one. Quite an easy job.
We'll take one last question, maybe on the first floor.
The response is we foil those attacks, which is fine, which our security forces, you and the Prime Minister and everybody in the establishment do. What are we doing to, the cause of the attack is because of our friendly organizations like Jaish, like IM or those organizations. So what is our plan to root out the organizations itself so that these attacks don't happen? Why I'm asking you personally is because I have read a lot about you and I have followed Prime Minister Modi, and as you said, the objective is absolutely clear that nation building and nation security is at most. So have we got any plans? I'm not talking about secrets or those plans, but my objective of asking is how are we going to root out these organizations so that these attacks do not happen at all? So that 6 people killed or 7 commando killed should not happen at all. Thank you, sir.
Well, you are a very intelligent person, and so are the others. They do understand that anything which is response must have three things in it. It must have speed, it must have surprise, it must have skill. And if you talk about it, you lose at least 30%, that is the surprise. You also lose the speed, because when things start changing, it is more difficult to hit a moving object than a static object. So you deny them that. After that it remains the same. But still I'd like to reply. All adversaries have two things. You know, in the whole snake, its venom is only one part of its body. The entire body is not poisonous. One is its intentions, another is its capability. When you want to counter them, you degrade their intentions. Make it cost prohibitive for them. That is, the cost is extremely heavy for them. That is why they may continue to lose a large number of persons, the success cannot come to them. They may also feel that the people who are benefiting, who are their protectors and mentors, probably will suffer more by patronizing such insidious and dangerous people than probably the injury that they will inflict on us. So we do try to downgrade their intentions, and in that we use the tools of diplomacy, the tools of deterrence, the tools of counter propaganda, everything that goes, that the deterrence level is there, by which the intentions are brought down, scaled down, and I must tell you that it has succeeded to a very large extent. You might be thinking that, well, we still hear a lot, but remember, what was the situation in Kashmir? Have you heard of any major incident or a minor incident of terror? I shouldn't be saying that, touch wood for that. Anywhere in the country? In last few years, 2 years? Number of incidents which have taken place. Encounters with the security forces is a professional hazard. That should not be taken when the security forces meet their adversaries. That is the professional hazard. But where they have succeeded, by attacking the assembly or VIP or this thing, or the civilians, how many civilians have been killed? Similarly, if it's the left-wing extremism, how much of a news that comes? Or it is the northeastern extremists, you said about NSA and talks and others. So, the intentions are changed through various means. Second is degrading their capabilities. That is a matter which is a hard job of physical engagement. That's a hard power which has got to be met with the hard power. So we try to increase our capability in terms of hard power, buttress it with the technology, with the new ideas, new tactics, and new these things, and try to do whatever best we can. Nothing is so good which cannot be improved, and I don't want to defend that what we have done is sufficient, but we are constantly at it. And we have got full faith and confidence in our capability to tackle it. I can assure you, that is, if you are in a boxing ring, I cannot assure you that you are not going to some of the punches. But I can assure you that the punches that you will put will be much more powerful. But it cannot be a zero-level game. If there's a fight, if there's a fight, the blood has to come. If there's a fight, sacrifices will have to be made. And we are capable of making big sacrifices. This country has made sacrifices for hundreds of years, but has never lost sight of its national objectives and national aspirations. We will make sacrifices, whatever the cost. The success of the game will lie, we will deny their objectives to our adversaries, and that they will never succeed. Any other question?
Thank you very much, sir. I'd like to invite Dr. Abhay Jere for the launch of